Hello! As some of you will be aware, I am currently trying to work through my enormous to-read pile, facilitating that by reading authors from A through to Z as possible. I'm on authors beginning with G right now, and I don't seem to have very many, but I did find an ace double by John Glasby, Project Jobe. Just look at that cover. Isn't that the most fantastic cover? So you've got Jupiter in the background with the red spot thoroughly visible. You've got these pretty cool space station-y things in the foreground. I personally think that one looks a lot like an old jelly. You know how you used to put orange or lemon jelly in a mold and then tip it out so it was all wibbly wobbly. And the foreground is meant to be the moon of Jupiter, Io, with some ice in the background. Spectacular artwork as done by Kelly Freas. This book, by the way, is copyright by John Glasby, 1971, and I assume it was John Freas. It was Freas also who did this beautiful little black and white in the cover. Another one that would make a fine tattoo, just saying. Anyhow, let's have a word about John Glasby. I am 99% certain that John Glasby is one of the pen names used by John Stephen Glasby, who was an English author born in the 1920s and who had huge numbers of pen names. He also had quite huge numbers of books, having more than 300 novels and short stories that were written, according to the internet, largely in the 1950s and 1960s. Though Project Jobe is copyright 1971, so clearly 70s as well. Glasby was, as I understand it, a professional scientist, being research chemist and mathematician. But he also wrote books, and I believe he wrote them in a number of different genres, not just science fiction. I also think that I've probably read some of his work under some of his other alternative names, including John C. Maxwell. That one sounds very familiar. However, when it comes to Project Jobe, what we've got here is virtually pure pulp, exactly the sort of pulpy goodness that you would expect from an ace double of its era. The story starts with Donna. What's his first name? It's got that beautiful thing where in the early books they talk about the surname more than the first name. Norbert Donner. What a name. Norbert Donner is a professional scientist, and he is stationed on Io's moon, on Io, one of the moons of Jupiter. And if you want a rabbit hole to fall down, start checking out Jupiter's moons. They're over 100. They're classed by Discovery and in clusters. Anyway, Io, I can't tell which of the moons it is. Donna's been there for 6 years, and he's one of only 2 people on the station who's actually been down to the research facility on the face of Jupiter, which was first established around about 6 years ago. Nowadays, all the work is done from the station through remote control, with robots in the actual research station executing the actual instructions that are coming down to them from Io. The other person on the station who has been down to the surface is the director of the project, who is called Stanton. And when our story commences, Donna and Stanton are worried about a committee from Earth consisting of a senator called Durant and a whole lot of scientists. Now, Durant has got it into his head that the people who finance the expedition aren't being told the whole lot of it. He doubts some of the information that's coming back. He doesn't know where the project is. He wants to make sure that the millions that are being spent on it are being well spent. And Donna and Stanton are talking about that. So when Durant and his entourage arrive from Earth, he insists on going down to the surface, even though he's warned that it's especially dangerous. The surface of Jupiter is always dangerous, having high pressure, enormous storms, etc. But right now it's particularly dangerous because the red spot and the South Tropical Disturbance, which is quaintly shortened to STD throughout most of the book, are about to converge on each other. It's a once-in-a-lifetime kind of experience, and the storms, which are all already intense, are going to be worse. Durant insists that he wants to see the facility, and so he goes down, taking his general scientist, Sam Bush, with him, and Jill Packard, who is the robotics, or the psionics, I think it was the robotics expert. Predictably, their ship gets smashed and trashed and thrown down on the surface. A rescue mission must be mounted. It's mounted in 2 parts, with Donna... What was that first name again? It's not... There we go, Norbert. Norbert Donner takes one ship and goes to the research station, from which he's going to try and pinpoint the distress beacon that comes from the Senator's downed ship. Meanwhile, Stanton has got another ship with a few other people in it, and he's going to try and go to the positioning of the beacon as discovered by Donna from the station and go back and forth. A large portion of the story is actually that. You've got Sam and Jill and Durant inside the ship, experiencing the trauma of having been felled, unable to communicate with everyone. Their robots were smashed in the crash. Are we going to die? Oh no, oh no. Along with the splendor of Jupiter as it unfolds its berserker... What was that wonderful phrase that we wrote down here somewhere as we were going through it? Oh, there we go. The berserk fury of hydrogen, methane, and ammonia. The other part is Stanton zooming in, trying to extract them from the ship. And that's the most of it. But in the meantime, we have got Donna in the station, discovers, to his surprise apparently, that the robots are actually up to something. So maybe Durant was right after all. While initially cooperative, they eventually refused to continue to allow him the power to contact Stanton's rescue mission and continue to pinpoint the distress code. So it ends up in a bit of a shoot-up with the robots, and meanwhile Stanton rescues Durant, Sam and Jill. They come to the space station, and then you've got a big reveal of what's actually happening. It's not a bad plot. It's your pure pulp. If you like pulp, you're going to like it. I feel that it's poorly written. I think that it definitely shows all the signs of a professional writer who is knocking them out for a deadline, and who isn't as concerned as they could be about consistency. Some of the inconsistencies are glaringly obvious, some are easy to ignore, but one of the most glaringly obvious ones is that in the very first pages, Donna is worried about the senator's visit, because what if he discovers what's really happening? And he discusses that with Stanton, and they both have the what if he finds out what's really happening debate. So that makes it quite clear early on that they knew that something was happening down there that wasn't as advertised. And so making the big reveal of what the robots were doing that no one but Stanton knew about was odd. It felt like it was written too fast, and the author had actually forgotten what he'd put in the first bit, that he hadn't then properly gone over and edited it. One of the high points, however, was that in the 70s there seems to have been this real fascination with the surface of Jupiter. And as I was reading Project Jobe and enjoying this gorgeous cover on a regular basis, red spot, I think that's meant to be the Southern Tropical Storm, I kept thinking of James Blish's Cities in Flight. This is a book that I know well, having read it a number of times. And the first part of it, what would have been the first book when it was first published, They Shall Have Stars, takes place very predominantly on one of the moons of Jupiter while they're building a bridge. And so that same fascination with the insane ice flows and the molten center of Jupiter comes to the fore in both books. Now, I did actually wonder for a while if John S. Glasby was a pen name for James Blish, or if both of them were inspired by a same thing. If you know of any other 70s styles books that had that same fascination with the surface of Jupiter, do list them below because I'm curious. In Cities in Flight, it's moon, the fifth moon, Amaltham, not Io. And there's another couple of differences as well. But one of the similarities is that both are doing research for the good of mankind. Now, while Project Jobe allegedly is all about testing stresses on materials under pressures and temperatures that can't be mimicked in any laboratory, they're actually doing something else, which I'm going to reveal to you. So this is kind of a lonely visionary on behalf of all of mankind trope. And if you think you're about to read it, maybe stop here. I feel like it doesn't matter too much overall. Now, right at the end, we get this big reveal as Stanton stands there and tells us what's really been happening on the station. It's something he planned long ago, and he programmed the robots to do it. Why exactly the robots went AWOL isn't explained. There is a lot that isn't explained. I also feel like John Glasby's skill was not thinking what a robot was, because they seem to be miniature humans, whilst the humans are busy telling each other, don't expect robots to think like humans. Weird. Anyway. So, overall the writing was slow and clunky and dated. Io and Jupiter were interesting. Describing Io and Jupiter is clearly what got John Glasby going. The writing style, really dated and not great. Story and plot, unless you want to hear a lot about the surface of Jupiter, are negligible. And characters essentially don't exist. The big reveal at the end comes across that more than a century ago there was a mathematician called George Cantor. I'm not a mathematician, pretty sure I've heard that name. I'd say that other science fiction stories have also been fascinated by him. He worked on a theory of mathematics in which he proved that there were numbers greater than infinity, which apparently excited mathematicians. It sounds cool, don't know what it means. And it remained an abstract theory that couldn't be tested, and it was eclipsed by some of Einstein's work. Now, this abstract theory of numbers greater than infinity only really was useful in pure mathematics, but in 1940s, Campbell extrapolated from Cantor's work that matter transference may be available based on the amount of power generated. The amount of power, however, was humongous, which is why we had this being tested down on the surface of Jupiter. Similarly to James Blish's Cities in Flight, they were testing for something that they weren't admitting. That was something different, that was longevity. This one is for matter transference. So the great reveal is that this machine that the robots were working on will allow transference of one thing to another place, and that is going to be how mankind reaches the stars. And the ending of this book is that on Io they have somehow built this ship, and some of the characters that we know from previous, insofar as they are characters and insofar as we know them, get in it, and in 12 seconds jump 12 light years off to a different star system. Stanton himself can't go, too old, Bones won't take it, whatever, so hence our lonely visionary working on behalf of all mankind. Tau Ceti? Was that it? Tau Ceti. There's a lot of elements of science in here that are good, like when they do make the jump, in order to check that they've reached the right star, they use spectrometry to identify the star. That's great. The sciencey bits are good. The writing is not. It's very purple prose a lot of the time. There's this fight with the robots that is hard to read because it is so silly. And there is a lot of sort of grandstanding about things that didn't need grandstanding about. So what else do I have to say about it? Oh yes, I've got some book bookmarks to show you what I mean about the writing. Now, Jill Packard, female character, 1970s, go you. It would be nice if you could make a female character. It's nice that she's a scientist in the 70s. That's kind of a thing. It's not so nice that she's there basically to squeal and be rescued by Sam. That's a bit ick, let's be honest. There's one particular bit that is particularly annoying. Oh, there we go. I understand. I'm not being much help, am I? Said Jill. You're doing all right, says the manly Sam. Any other woman in your position would have lapsed into uncontrollable hysterics long before now. Nah, Sam. Nah, that's not how we roll, you know. But that's how the 70s rolled, and okay, it is what it is. Then we've got the fight between Donna and the robots. That's kind of weird. He felt no guilt at destroying the robots, which were, after all, creatures created by man, having no real being of their own. Yeah, okay. There's also a really nice, there's one page where Glasby lets his full enthusiasm for the surface of Io let go. Let's see if I can find it for you. There we go. Oh yes. Suddenly the ship lurched horribly, cantered over at a steep angle. There came a rasping to one side that shrilled along a saw-toothed scale. Jill slipped as the shock tore through the vessel. Bush grabbed out and caught her with a sudden violence that made her scream. No, that isn't the surface of Io. Couldn't resist that. So yeah, it is what it is. It is kind of fun. The surface of Io is lots of fun. Now, for the first time since the dawn of human history, the great whirling funnel of the STD was bearing down upon the great red spot on a direct collision course. The great ice plateau was beginning to break up as the internal stresses exceeded the cohesive forces. The spot itself would be sucked down from its upper level to within a few hundred miles of the surface. On the plateau itself, the 10-mile-high ridge of the great glacier was crumbling. Cross drafts struck at it from all directions as the winds reached 200 and 300 mile-an-hour gusts. Yeah, so, surface of Jupiter, totally works. Robots, I don't think Glasby really knew what a robot was. Definitely wasn't too good knowing what a woman was. But overall, it's a lot of fun. Thank you for watching. Read good books. Maybe John Glasby. Possibly. But good books. Read good books. Bye.